Rampage is the newest Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson vehicle. And initially, when watching the trailers, I thought it looked pretty stupid. And yeah, the movie is stupid at times, but it is pretty damn epic. And the visuals are some of the best I've seen in like a big, like, kind of monster action flick. And I really enjoyed it.
Science experiments falling from the sky.
Having George on that plane is a big mistake.
I think we'll be all right.
So along with Dwayne Johnson, it mainly stars Naomi Harris and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And this is another video game movie. And I think that this is probably the best video game movie ever. And I think it's really the first good video game movie. Like, you got close with some, but this thing is really the first good video game movie. And of course, the video game is based on, there really isn't a story, and there hasn't been a new version of the game for a while. But I know I remember playing Rampage with my brother a lot. Like, you basically just are like, you're either like a dinosaur sort of character, or a Godzilla sort of character, you know, a giant ape sort of character, King Kong sort of character, or a wolf character. And that's one that's actually kind of unique. And you pretty much just go around destroying cities while the government tries to kill you. And you try to rake up points by destroying as many buildings as you can. And if you are killed, you kind of fall down off the building and shrink down to a human. And that, they don't do anything with a human. And that's kind of disappointing, because in the climax of the film, I wouldn't have minded seeing a gigantic The Rock. But, you know, I think they didn't want to go that route. They just wanted to have actual creatures that are being adjusted by a CRISPR program. And it's actually kind of interesting. I mean, yeah, the science is a little fudged, but they actually use something that is real to kind of explain it. I mean, like, it's kind of impressive, you know, that they, it just probably just looked on Google and they for the idea. But I think, you know, it's better than a lot of other movies that include genetic modification. And the setup of the film is basically that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he is like a former Navy SEAL, and he was fighting poachers. And the one time he found this little albino gorilla, he named him George, and he killed all the people that are trying to poach them. And he took it to the zoo, and that's how he's the primate specialist. And there's some cool scenes in the beginning, like the George is really well developed. He's kind of more developed than any of the other characters. But like, you get a little bit about The Rock and Naomi Harris, but even then, it's pretty slim. Like, it's basically just Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like, it doesn't even matter what his actual name is in the story, but that's who it is. And, you know, he can't play that, he doesn't have that much depth. But, you know, it really works for, like, an action movie like this. And, you know, it has some funny moments, but then, of course, you know, stuff has to happen, and these canisters rain down from a science experiment they're doing, this evil company was doing in space, to genetically modify animals and make them giant, and I guess use them as weapons. It's not really clear like what their whole goal with this was. And that's the thing, probably the weakest parts of the movie are all the parts involving the evil corporation, the Wydens, played by Malin Akerman and Jake Lacey. And, you know, they're really over the top and corny. But I mean, they do what they're supposed to do, and they get their comeuppance. And the only thing weird about them, though, is they don't ever show them like that much. But there's like an Easter egg where there's like a Rampage cabinet in the corner, and it's a little odd. Like, do they get the idea from this by playing Rampage? Like, I don't know. I know it's an Easter egg. It's not like you see them playing the game and it's like, you know, but it's still a little weird. But, you know, as the canister is exposed to George and the albino gorilla gets larger and larger, and he gets more aggressive. And I like a lot of stuff they did with this. And Dwayne Johnson, like, remind me a little bit of the Jurassic World, like, where, like, with the Chris Pratt and Blue. But, you know, he's trying to, like, you know, get him to calm down, and, like, they're doing sign language. Like, I like the relationship between The Rock and George. And, you know, they get Naomi Harris as the former employee of the evil corporation, and she comes in, and, like, the government agencies come in, and, you know, shenanigans occur, and you got other stuff with, like, the wolf. And the wolf is probably my least liked monster in the movie. Like, the design for the wolf is kind of goofy, but, like, an alligator is kind of, you see it happen, but you don't see it introduced, like, the full, like, what it actually looks like towards, like, the very end. And it looks pretty cool. And, you know, like, when you know, they start destroying the cities, the director, Brad Payton, does not hold back. There is a serious amount of carnage wreaked by these giant monsters. Like, I mean, a lot of people are killed. Like, the alligator, like, eats this giant, like, a pleasure cruise of people. And you see a lot of death and destruction. And, I mean, some of it isn't that graphic, but some of it, like, is a little graphic. And, I mean, like, it's, for PG-13, it's, like, stretching that PG-13. Like, I was surprised at how graphic it was. And honestly, like, the filming of it is really good. Like, it's one of the better, you know, like, because, you know, you have Rock, and you have, you know, a giant ape, and like a destroyed city around them, and destroyed Chicago. So, you know, has to be a mix of green screen and practical effects, and more green screen. But they mesh it really well. So, I mean, it looks like I didn't really catch myself noticing that much wrong. Like, it looked pretty real. Like, even, like, the gigantic George, the CGI for him is great, you know, when you see him, like his fur is kind of wrinkling in the wind. And, I mean, it looks really good. Like, it is surprisingly good. Like, from the trailer, it didn't look that impressive, but watching it, you know, watching 3D and a big screen, it looked really great. I was kind of enthralled by the movie. I mean, yeah, again, it is simple. It is simplistic. It is kind of goofy. It's corny. But the actual action, it delivered everything that you would want from a movie like this. Like, I can't think of anything I would want more, again, other than The Rock becoming also a giant and fighting the monsters. But, you know, The Rock, he does get his moments, and they use him well. And, you know, they use him really well. Like, I know, like, some stuff is kind of things that, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything. But, I mean, they do a lot of great stuff. Like, I really like this movie. And I would definitely recommend it. I give it, like, an 8.5 out of 10, maybe even 8.75. I don't know, like, it's not an amazing movie, but it's incredibly entertaining. And I think, especially on the big screen, it's really fun to watch. I would highly recommend it if you like these kind of movies. Like, it delivered on all of the epic monster action I would ever want. And, I mean, it makes it so that, I know, I think they're doing, you know, the King Kong and the Godzilla movie sometime coming up. And I think it'll be tough for that movie to match what this movie did. And I never expected to say that. I did not go into this movie expecting much of anything, and I was pleasantly surprised. So thanks for watching, and you can check my other video playlists around my head, or subscribe to me over here. Thanks.